Local. It's a buzzword that consumers see everywhere, from farmers markets to grocery stores to advertisements. It was once strictly used by farmers and small businesses, but now it's being picked up by big corporations to sell their products to a wider audience. But what does it really mean to be local?
I am Will Clavel, and I am an Economic Development Specialist here at the Community and Economic Development Office. In my mind, a local business is one that is either founded here or someone from here started it. Over 99% of businesses in Vermont are considered small businesses, and these businesses employ almost a third of the whole Vermont population. Small businesses and entrepreneurs are really the backbone of the economy.
I am Nathan Hartswick. I'm the co-owner with my wife, Natalie Miller, of Vermont Comedy Club in Burlington. It's been kind of our dream to have a place where people can come, like from all walks of life, can come and kind of escape for a few hours and have some laughs. It's like taking something that you're passionate about and being able to kind of realize a vision around it business-wise. I think the fact that my wife and I are invested in this business, we're here all the time, we show our faces here all the time, I think that helps people to want to support it because they understand that it's a local business.
I like the aspect of being a part of a community while also being part of a business. I think that's really important, and you have more sense of a team mentality being local here. The interesting thing about Vermont is that they really do root for the little guy.
Vermont especially always has placed an emphasis on this local movements. While a lot of cities go with an economic hunting strategy where they look for that big name store or big name business to come into town, what we've gone with here in Burlington is an economic gardening strategy, which is helping the current businesses grow and mature through technical assistance. That assistance is everything from business planning, accessing capital, finding space in town, helping them with the permitting and licensing process.
We had a lot of struggles in terms of putting the finances together to build out a place this large. There were great resources, I will say that. There's some people at City Hall who were really kind of on our side the whole time.
Local businesses are important because when we do well, not only is our beer doing well for our company, but also the stores that are selling it, the restaurants that are selling it, the distributor that's bringing it around. Everything's taxed, it's going into the state. Those taxes are then used for roads, schools, things of that nature.
You know, I would rather give my money to somebody here and keep it in the community than I would, you know, to some big franchise or some big chain.
These are people that you go to school with or that your kids go to school with, and you're not only buying a product, but you're also supporting your neighbors in the community that you live in. The profits are often reinvested back into the local economy, whereas when you have larger businesses that are headquartered outside the state, those profits go to the headquarters.
Hey, that Bud Light is not just any Bud Light. It's brewed here in Texas. What do you think?
It's great.
Of course, we brew it fresh every day. It's just that we have this fancy bottle now. Bud Light, proudly brewed deep in the heart of Texas.
Imagine your favorite local businesses. Now, imagine Walmart coming in and buying a bunch of them, but keeping their names all the same. Wouldn't that be kind of wrong? How would that affect the other local businesses that are really local? Well, guess what? This happens all the time. That's what local washing is.
Big corporations have been buying up local businesses, and then the public doesn't know that a local business is no longer locally owned. It's now owned by a big beer company, and we're seeing that more and more and more in the beer industry because domestic beers are losing so much to craft beers every year, and they realized they needed a way to get a foot back in the door. They're smart to take advantage of places like Vermont that really value being local and buying local. And that's why we keep having to change laws where if something says, oh, it's Vermont maple syrup, it should be maple syrup from Vermont, not just maple syrup that tastes like it's from Vermont.
We don't have a ton of competition in this area. We have venues like Higher Ground and the Flynn who tend to bring in bigger acts than we can maybe have here. There's nobody trying to pawn themselves off as like a local comedy club in Burlington, you know, right across the street from us or something. You know, I'm not losing out, you know, revenue to some company that's trying to pretend like they're Vermonters. As a person who was born and raised in Vermont, you know, I find that stuff offensive for sure. Like when people, and it like, you know, it goes all the way back to my childhood. That whole like made in Vermont thing had a real cachet to it. And then we exported that with like Ben and Jerry's and all that. There's been such an interest in like supporting local and farm to table and all that stuff here. I can see why businesses want to use that as a strategy to, you know, to sell to customers even if they're chains, right?
When you see that made in Vermont, you have some sort of expectation about that product and about the company that it comes from. But there's other competitors that, you know, aren't from the state but are marketing themselves as made in Vermont. And that kind of, you know, consumers don't often know, is this actually from Vermont or is this local washing? We have seen both Ben & Jerry's and Seventh Generation acquired by Unilever, a large global organization. One of the things that was unique with both of those cases is Unilever allowed them to keep a separate board, an independent board of former Ben & Jerry's employees that make decisions still. So that's a great example of being able to use the resources that Unilever has, the distribution channels they have, while keeping that sense of Vermont feel and that local control over both Ben & Jerry's and 7th Gen.
But we're not Ben or Jerry. So what can we do to fight back against local washing?
I think just the only way to do it is to educate yourself about what products you like and whether or not they're from around the area.
You know, there's the obvious stuff of like, oh, you should just support local business with your pocketbook and you should buy goods and pay for experiences at businesses that you know are owned by local people. But I think I would go a step further than that and just say, you know, like tell other people what a great time you had at the comedy club and come back. I think that's something people kind of forget, is that almost all of our growth has been really just word of mouth. It's just been people have a good time and then they tell people and they come back. That stuff is the glue and the basis for the success of local businesses.